Throughout its 200-year history, Widener University is no stranger to change, starting out as an all-boys school with founder John Bullock in Wilmington, Delaware.
So it's not really known exactly why he started the school. He did go to a boarding school, I believe in a similar area, and I know he did teach. Like he stayed on after he finished school, and he started teaching. So maybe it was just he was interested in the profession, we'll say. So that's probably why like he got into it. But he was also a Quaker, and a huge part of being a Quaker is community outreach and nonviolence too. But so it's probably because of that as well. So he started the school probably based on. He was also really prominent in the community, very like well respected too. So yeah.
Bullock would be head of the school from its inception in 1821 until his death in 1846. After his death, the school turned over to Samuel Alsop, who became the school's second president. In 1853, Alsop would sell the school to Colonel Theodore Hyatt, the first of 3 Hyatt presidents of the institution. This is just about when military instruction became a central part of the college. It is said that Hyatt saw students marching with broomsticks. This inspired him to change the curriculum and added military instruction to his school. At this point, the school would then become the Delaware Military Academy.
Well, the Hyatts were in charge of Widener for nearly 100 years. Theodore comes in and combines it with the previous boarding school. It becomes Hyatt Select School for Boys. Then he develops so many other really beneficial advances, like during his presidency, there was an addition of chemical engineering to the curriculum, and engineering became what PMA and then PMC was known for, educating these engineers.
Just when the school was getting settled in Delaware as a military academy, war broke out. The American Civil War would start in April of 1861. This was caused by Southern states seceding from the Union and forming the Confederacy. The main cause of the secession was to preserve slavery. However, Colonel Hyatt, who was loyal to the Union, moved the school to Westchester, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was a state that was friendly to the Union.
When the Civil War was just beginning, they were in Delaware still, and Delaware is a border state. And it actually had a lot of Southern sympathizers, but Hyatt did not support the South. And when there was like a call for arms, like they were a military school, they had firearms, the government wanted them to hand over their guns basically, and Hyatt refused. I don't think he ever outwardly said like, because I don't support the Southern effort in this war. But he did eventually start to support the Union and stuff. So it was kind of because of that, and then because he refused to hand over the guns from the school, his character was called into question by the government as well. And then all of that coupled with, I want to say that they were leasing the land that they were on, so that might have came up as well. So like he had to move the school somewhere, and then the land was available in Westchester. And I think it was more space as well, so it gave them more opportunity to grow the school. So they moved over to Pennsylvania from there.
Delaware at the time also had many people there who were sympathetic to the Southern cause. This was a tough decision at the time. Many students would end up on the field of battle during the war. After the Civil War, the school would move once again, this time permanently to Chester, Pennsylvania.
So, because of the railroad, it was it settled in Upland for 2 years while this campus was being built. Old Main and some other buildings were being built, and it was located on the New England to Washington, D.C. rail system, which of course is Northeast Corridor that we call it. And because of that, and because students traveled by rail from all over, it was valuable for them to be there in this location.
In 1867, construction begun and is finished at Old Main. It was designed by John Crump and built by John Shedwick and Son for $38,000. It officially opens to incoming students in September of 1868. The building had both classrooms and living quarters for the cadets. However, in 1882, a fire broke out in a chemistry lab in Old Main.
The building actually caught fire because of the laboratory. I think that's where they think like the fire first came from. So we were a very science heavy institution at the time, so they had a full lab situation happening, and it caught fire and the building burnt down. and because of that, they had to rebuild.
The fire company could not reach Old Main because torrential rain had left the roads muddy and their wagons could not get up the hill to Old Main. However, they still ran hoses up to Old Main and pumped water up to it all the way from the Delaware River, which was 14 blocks away. After the fire destroyed Old Main, it was rebuilt quickly by the original architect for a price of $65,000. For the next 140 years, the campus will continue to grow in Chester, in Delaware, and in Harrisburg. No matter what Widener has gone through, some things have stayed the same. Widener has many traditions. Cadets in the past would sneak up to the dome at Old Main and scratch their names. The most famous name etching in the dome belongs to Hollywood filmmaker Cecil B. DeMille, who was once a cadet. Another old tradition that took place with the cadets was when senior cadets placed their roster, yearbook, and a flag in a box and buried it on campus, marking the spot with a tombstone. Many of these tombstones are still around Alumni Auditorium. More modern traditions of Widener include rubbing the nose of the pride statues for good luck and sidestepping the Widener stele in Bound Garden, as it is feared that if it is crossed before graduation, it means that students will not earn their degrees. Widener also has plenty of famous alumni besides Cecil B. DeMille. Sylvanus Morley, who was a member of the class of 1904, was an archaeologist and spy for the United States during World War I, spying in Mexico and looking for German influence. Russell Harrison was also a cadet. He was the son of President Benjamin Harrison and great-grandson of President William Henry Harrison. Another famous figure was Second Lieutenant John Gahagan, whose heroics in Vietnam were portrayed by Chris Klein in the film We Were Soldiers. President Joe Biden was also an adjunct professor of law at Widener's Delaware campus for 17 years. Widener has a long and storied history, producing members of the armed forces, academia, politics, athletes, engineers, and many more. What will you be?